And today we're going to tap into the digital design center conversation. Not everybody's gone there. We've seen a lot of ifs, ands, or buts as to whether or not it's something for every home builder's model. We've got a great panel today that have great experience, that have built out some of the products and made it more feasible for home builders to make design centers part of their customer journey. All right. So I would love to get started and introduce our panel here today. So to my left here, you may have seen her a few times this week. We have Melissa Morman. She is an accomplished executive whose career has spanned multiple industries, from executive roles in Fortune 500 companies to foundational roles in startups. She's had held a broad set of executive responsibilities, from general management to launching new divisions to directing global business development, sales, leading, marketing, sales, account management. She's pretty much, kind of done it all. One constant in her success has been her unwavering advocacy of the customer experience. And she's also served as the Chief Experience Officer at BDX, where she managed the entire life cycle of the customer experience. She also led the launch of several BDX products, including Envision, the industry's online options program. Thank you for being here today. Next to her, we have Mr. Dennis Webb. I just had the opportunity to meet him recently and love his story. He is the Vice President of Operations for Fulton Homes, where he oversees sales, marketing, operations in the Fulton Homes Design Center. In his 26 years there, he has led the charge using technology combined with past retail experience to help transform the company into one of the most advanced home builders in the country in the areas of customer experience, operations, and marketing. Prior to joining Fulton Homes, he was the Vice President of Stores for Eagleson's, a men's clothing retailer. Dennis had a 20-year retail career with Hart, Schaffner, and Marks, where he held increasingly responsible positions of salesman, store manager, buyer, merchandising manager, general manager, and store president. He's definitely a man that has worn all hats. So I'm really excited to hear about how his retail experience is inspiring the home building industry today. Next to him, we have Jennifer Lynn. She's been with Chateau Software since 2004. She has worked in several departments, including operations and implementation, and currently has the role of client services and sales representative, where she provides client support, training, and sales. With over 35 years of experience in the home building industry, Jenny has developed a broad and encompassing knowledge of how to manage and deliver design center software solutions for home builders and home buyers. She knows the variety and complexity of the industry and has a deep understanding of the needs and challenges of each department, from purchasing, marketing, design, and executive roles. Jenny's mission is to help home builders and home buyers achieve their goals and satisfaction with their software and to make their lives easier and less stressful. We all need that. And then finally, we have Ryan Thornton. He manages product and development at ECI. He has a professional background in architecture, and Ryan initially made his mark by designing custom homes. His career took a significant turn in 2013 when he co-founded InSearch Digital Studio, a technology company that recently became part of ECI Software Solutions through acquisition. His passion for technology-driven solutions and dedication to problem-solving have not only transformed the way builders operate, but have also created a more seamless and enjoyable journey for home buyers. Ryan continues to shape the future of home building through his work as the product development manager for sales and design at ECI, and we're so excited to have you here today to join us. All right, so today in our session, we're going to review the design center role today and in the future. We're going to discuss how offering a digital design center can be effective, profitable, and help buyers eliminate buyer fatigue. Because remember, we want to keep them in the funnel, we want to keep them engaged, and we don't want cancellations. So when they get a chance to play in the design center, that's part of having them really warm up to our process, and inevitably they're home. Some of the session highlights that we'll go over today will highlight what is moving builders into the digital design center space. We know there's a lot of questions as to whether it works for every builder's model. Review the challenges builders are faced in regards to innovating their design center process. We'll discuss how you can have the best of both worlds. There's always the question, do I have a physical design center? Do I have a digital? Do I have both? So we're going to talk about that. And also discuss how to utilize design center data for efficiencies and customer improvements. So we're going to go ahead and kick off with my friend Melissa here. Really excited to hear, because you've worked in this space, you've consulted in this space. I know you're going to guide us through today some of the myths, and we're going to put some of those worries aside on why this doesn't have to be scary and crazy.
Yes, yeah, don't be scared, don't be scared. All right, so first, being the contrarian that I am, and language is really important. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about digital design centers and what's in a name. And John Galante and I always have this, battle of words and language and how important they are. And I don't know who wins, but I guess he wins because he gets to name the sessions. So we'll talk about what's in a name, right? And I would kind of posture that it's not just about digital. It's not even about the selection process, which is kind of a very internally builder-focused way to look at things, but rather it's about having a contemporary customer journey and process that enables your customers to design, dream, and own their home. So you can kind of see the difference between digital design center, which implies it's this narrow little sliver in our process that's important to us, the step that has to get done, like going to the bathroom, versus, wow, this is how they're gonna dream, this is how they're gonna connect, this is how they're actually gonna fall in love with their home. And there's some important factors that are really, really important, and I'm not gonna dwell on these on this slide because we're gonna kind of touch upon them as we go through, but it has to be on their schedule. It has to go between physical and online in case you do choose physical, retail as we like to call it. It has to be something that is meaningful to them and it allows them to dream and design and fall in love. So you don't wait and give it to them at the selection process, which is part of what we need them to do. You back it way up and you continue kind of that portal all the way through home ownership. So we're going to talk about those different pieces as we go forward. So having been in the building industry for over 2 decades, we have some battle scars trying to push digital. And some of it's online design centers, some of it's getting you to use, a chat bot, some of it's just getting you to have a more contemporary website. Pushing digital in this industry is a little challenging at times. We're not the fastest moving industry for a good reason. We're a very complicated industry. So I have empathy for all of you. But the challenge is not what you think. So we're going to break that down. And I would tell you, after a couple of decades of truly pushing specifically an online design center, and I share with my fellow panelists, as we were doing the panel, we decided we all need therapy because it is so difficult, to sometimes get builders to adopt this. But this is how it always goes. You go into a builder, you show them your product, and whether it's Envision or it's InSearch or Studio Chateau or whatever you're looking at, we all had the same experience. I never had a meeting where someone said, I don't get it. Or, okay, well, maybe I had a few of those in the early days. But in essence, they'd say, this is so intuitive. This is how I do my life. This is how all customers deal with things. I can design my tennis shoes online. Why can't I design my house online? This is so sexy, right? And it's just like, oh, this is so great. This is so great. So great. And then this happens. You get someone going, we should do this someday. And that someday is the kiss of death, right? Because that is really code for you're never gonna do it. You have no plans to do it. You have no intention to do it. You get that the right thing to say is, yeah, we should do that. But you have no intention on moving forward. So we're going to talk about, at least I'm not going to talk so much about features and functionality. I have some talented people to talk about that. I'm going to talk about leadership, and I'm going to talk about how we get in our own way. And this could apply to other digital solutions as well, not just online design centers. But the first one is I want to start with what are not myths, right? So let's remind ourselves of why you would do this. Despite the fact that your customers are screaming for it and they would love you for it, there's some really good reasons to do it. One, we know online design center, regardless of which product you choose or solution you work with, you will make more money, period. Because I, as the buyer, am selling myself. You're not selling me, I'm just designing my home and it happens to cost $50,000 more and I'm so excited about it. Whereas when you're trying to sell that to them, they're really uptight, they're hanging onto their wallet, they're freaking out, they have buyer's remorse the next day, very different experience. Let me sell myself. We have fewer cancellations, as Jennifer mentioned, because I've designed my home. It's now my home. I'm not gonna cancel my home. I might cancel your home as a builder. I'm not gonna cancel my home. We have more delighted buyers. And did I mention they spend more? So they're spending more and they're happier. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. We avoid very costly lawsuits because we have clean content. That content has been vetted regardless of which solution that you're choosing, and you have a record of what was presented and what they chose. So you can really hold everybody honest to that selection. Leads convert at 20 to 40%, and that's probably understated. But when you think about it, backing it up and giving it to them before they've contracted, they're dreaming and designing, and they're creating an account because they've designed their home, that's a really good lead to hand to your salespeople because they've already mentally, psychologically, bought into that house and spent time on it. So awesome leads. We have more efficient design appointments and process. So this is a win for you as the builder and for your employees. And we all know there's a tremendous employee shortage. So trying to hire salespeople and people to be in your design centers is really, really tough. So if we can make them more efficient, and they like that because they can make more money if they can do more appointments, is just a really good thing to do, especially in today's climate. And then that digital access extends to the field. So the guy in the field or the gal in the field installing the faucet can see exactly what was selected. It's a final check. Yes, we're putting in the right product. So there are others that we could go into, but these are not myths, right? These are why you would want to do this. Sometimes our buyers are fine doing things the way they are. Not, okay? And this was a survey that we did last year when I was at BDX, and it basically says 70% would complete over 30% of the process online if they were allowed to. 55% said they would go all the way to closing on the house online if they were allowed to do that. So that's where your customers are. If you're over here going, no, it's got to be in paper, I'm going to do it in Excel, you got to drive 2 hours across town to my design center appointment, that's the only option, you're really missing the boat. And there's a gap there in terms of customer satisfaction. Spoiler alert, they don't want to just design online, they want to do everything online. So let's start here, right? Maybe we'll start here, and then we can go on to some of the other pieces as well. Myth, online design options are just for the design phase, not. So as I talked about, this is a tool for the entire customer journey. The options are what makes this box of a floor plan into a personalized home, right? It's the heart. This is the heart of what we offer. So again, you can generate leads in that phase, and then if you continue it all the way through to I now own my home and I can see the products in my home, that's a really useful tool, and it's great for builders too. I forget the stat, I met with this one builder, and they said 60% of the calls they get after they close the home, and keep in mind, after you've closed the home, you make no more money, right? But every time they call you, you have costs. They wanted to know what the paint chip color was, right? Like, they need that, they want that. What if they just had that in their portal? So it's for that entire life cycle, not just that little narrow sliver of design. Myth, since I do packages or pre-selected options or like everything's included, I don't need an online design tool. I wish I had one of those buzzers, right? Your buyers actually need it even more because if you have pre-selected the options for them, you'd better sell them on the fact that you made the best choices. That if it's Silestone that you selected or it's GE appliances that you selected, you better be pitching those products hard because they're going to be even more curious about what you have selected for them, and you've got to sell that. And you need it even more for that lead generation piece and for that connection and those fewer cancellations. So don't get trapped into thinking, well, we have so simple options, we don't need it. You actually need it even more. Here's what happens. So remember that happy crowd, and they're like, this is so sexy, we gotta do this someday, or whatever. And sometimes you can get them to go, okay, we're doing it. We are doing it. And you're like, yes, yes, pinky swear. But we lose sight of the quest, right? And it's almost like this guy shows up, like, in spirit. He doesn't actually look like this. I haven't met anyone in the industry who actually looks like this. But we lose sight of the quest, right? We forget what we're doing, and we're really smart people. So we start to say things like, okay, we now need all of our systems to connect and integrate in a real-time fashion before we start. Even though we've never had that in the course of history of time, but suddenly we have to have that. Then we'll start to say, let's wait till we switch out our back-end CRM systems before we start. I haven't ever met a builder who isn't in search of a new CRM system or back-end system, right? I mean, you're on this constant quest for that, and as you should be, but as you know, it takes a year to pick one, if you're serious. It takes a year or two sometimes to implement them, right? So that means never. Again, you're just not gonna get to it because you're introducing these objections. Let's rethink our entire options master list before we start, which is like the total kiss of death because nobody in the company agrees on which options and how many options and what we should do. And again, we haven't bothered to do that before, but somehow we can't launch until we're perfect. And again, these are all really important things to do, and we talked about this, like you should be thinking about these things. They're important in your decision criteria. But you can start without all of those pieces in place. I always just throw in, let's solve world peace while we're at it, because, you know, like we could do that too, right? So it's about being realistic, and it's about taking an approach of what we call crawl, walk, run. Make the decision this is the right thing for your business, because the business results and your customers should drive your decisions, not your IT systems and all of those things, right? It's the tail wagging the dog. So make the right decision and then set out on a path and know how you're gonna integrate and know what you're gonna do with your options master list, but get going and start showing some results to yourselves and to your customers. And then this is my favorite. It's just not my budget, right? It's an expense. Yikes. Get on the right side of the P&L, right? Because what we talked about was when you implement one of these solutions, you make more money. It tends to pay for itself in the first few homes, right, that you put through the system. Again, you have fewer cancellations. Those are really expensive. You avoid costly lawsuits. You have a couple of those, and you have paid for the system. More efficient design appointments and process for your employees, which makes them happier, which is good. And then the digital field quality improves. So think about it on the right side of the P&L, not just on, oh, we're adding costs, but you're adding tremendous margin and benefit to your business. And battle scars aside, the industry is doing it, right? So after the first one of these, solutions launched it was about 20 years ago, we have probably about 5,000 communities across the different solutions, and there are more than just one solution, which is a really positive thing because not all solutions work for everyone, right? You've got to pick the one that happens to fit for you at this point in time. And now, many builders, they've got that licked. They've got the online design center. They're moving on to virtual reality and visualizations that tie into it, as well as even getting to buy now buttons on their website. And then next up, we're gonna have virtual reality online collaboration where your designer can get on virtual reality and you can design virtually together in a visual sense. AI-infused tools, Anya talked a lot about that yesterday, so you're gonna start to see AI come into it in terms of recommendation engines, and then just more extensive data analytics. The problem is you can't get to those things until you do the basic blocking and tackling. No longer is an online design center like a sparkly, like special thing to have. It's table stakes. You really have to have it. So it's the season. Okay, I'm one of those people that thinks it's Christmas already. I would be up here with a Christmas hat if they let me. Don't get scared, right? Embrace it, tremendous opportunity, and just pick the right solution and get going.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love to add on to that when we talk about who's embracing it and who's not. Remember we were talking with Zillow the other day and we were talking about the next cohort to really come into the buyer circle is the Gen Z, right? So they're gonna be like, what do you mean? What do you mean I can't?
They are brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, they are really brutal. They don't want to talk to you.
So we have to get prepared for what that next buyer, well, yeah, I've got kids in that.
I do.
But you're gonna have that next buyer that's gonna have the different expectations. And then another part of the cost benefit is the referral, the word of mouth, and really creating customer for life. I always say, if we can create more customers for life, my job's easier as a marketer. I don't have to market, so make our experience better, make it more seamless, have them refer the people and come back for their second and third homes. Now we're really having great ROI. So I know it's part of the big equation, right? Like it really does show up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
I'm gonna pass that
probably
down
click.
to Miss
Okay.
Jennifer. All right, so Jennifer, so excited to have you on this panel as well. Also, great solutions for the customer here. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about the onboarding process. So we've talked about the why we should do it, why we should be thinking about it. But I have also been championing having, a great task team for some of these things. So I'd love to hear, how do you get started, and what's the, the ebb and flow of how you get these design center operations started, who the key players are?
Okay. Well, we're going to tackle that.
Yes.
It's always big and scary. Onboarding and implementation with a whole new system, any system, can be challenging and intimidating. And that change can be difficult. That's one thing that I see is just having to make that change is, do we want to do this? We know that the key to successful implementation process is to work closely with the builder and go through the entire process. So as we're going through it, we're going to hold your hand through the whole thing, so it's not so scary. We get to understand your current process and how it relates to any specific features that you might be going into on, Studio Chateau obviously is what I'm talking about, but any system, you got to go through that whole process. So the first thing in this process is to establish your builder point person. That person will be the one that's going to organize all the meetings going forward and outline any new procedures that happen as we go, which of course that's going to happen. So once that's decided, we move on to the scheduling kickoff meeting with all the key people. And then in this meeting, we will get into the details of your current processes again. It's the whole thing, such as how you present your options to your buyers now, how you process your paperwork for the office design process and the field. We get into all the nitty-gritty of your business, so we can help you out and make it smoother. And then based on that information, we evaluate what features will work best for your business model. We'll help you determine what current processes will be changed and how and what will be eliminated. The infamous three-ring binders come to mind. Those big old chunky things that still being used.
They're so vintage.
Oh, they are.
Let's pick out your
cute.
cabinets.
So those go away because everything's going to be online. We discuss the staff roles and who needs to be notified of buyer selections and when. And then with that information, we set up the training requirements. Everyone will learn how to use the system and get their info they need. And then finally determine which community to start and establish the timeline for completion. And of course, that has many factors. Is it going to be a new project? Are we going to start on a specific phase? How many lots are there? When does it go to sale? When's the sale? Maybe you're doing pre-sale. So we got to figure all that out and decide which one's going to be the best fit. And then, I think I hit everything on here. So now I'm going to kind of go over a case study with one of our longtime clients. They were nice enough to give me some feedback on how Studio Chateau works for them and how the whole integration thing went for them, and I just want to share that with you. Cornerstone Communities is located in San Diego, California. And they build single-family detached condos and townhomes. So they do it all. Cornerstone has been using Studio Chateau for over 10 years. They are our most integrated client so far. We have integrated with their CRM, scheduling, and their accounting systems. They actually run their options, their directs and indirects through our system. So they use the whole enchilada. Now, that all happened in baby steps. They first brought on, the key is you get that software in, just like Melissa said, you get that software in and that you work on that first and you get that up and going. You get everybody confident in the system and using that. And then once you do that, you move forward with the other systems. And that's exactly what they did. They were happy using the catalog for many years. But then as they were in the system and realizing what else can we do and trying to eliminate the double entry and all that, then they started doing each one at a time till where they are today. So prior to using Studio Chateau, Cornerstone use an accounting-based system to sell their options. Ugh, it hurts my heart every time I hear that. It's definitely not, it's not for the buyers, obviously. It's just, here's your pricing. So you need more of a front-end options solution for that, because it wasn't geared to the buyer's experience at all. They use the infamous three-ring binder again with those pictures for the designers and the buyers to reference in their appointments. So integrating an online system that is visual and user-friendly for the buyers and having a complete back office made all the difference for them. So I have the one quote up there from Yesenia, and I just wanted to share another one because it was just awesome. Quote, with advanced preparation, Studio Chateau allowed Cornerstone communities to efficiently continue business as usual during the pandemic. Sales agents, interior designers, and home buyers had the flexibility to coordinate meetings, view standard and optional home features, and finalize paperwork all remotely from the convenience of their home, office, or design center. One can easily update changes, prices, images across several projects, and have live updates instantaneously. And then one last feature that is helpful is the profit analysis reports. One can job cost several units a day and thus recognize and correct any inaccuracies in minutes, unquote. So this example shows that having a complete online digital design center system that includes the front end and back end, that offers a real-time information that can be referenced any time or place is not only convenient, but it becomes a crucial to running your business. And even in the toughest times, 3 years ago, we were all going through that. So being able to eliminate errors before paperwork goes out, this is what your what an online system is going to do. So it's going to help you be able to eliminate all those errors before that goes out. It's going to save you time, frustration, and of course money. It's going to affect that bottom line. And then keep in mind, you don't need to go and do the entire integration all at once. Don't do it all at once. Remember, it's baby steps. And start with the online design software first and get that up and going. And then decide to integrate with the other systems one at a time. You can only eat an elephant one spoon at a time. But the key is to really make that first step, and don't be scared to do it. So, wrapping up. In wrapping up, you need an online options management software, whether you have an in-house design center or outsourcing to a third party. If you're using a third-party design center, imagine adopting a systematic approach to online option sales for all your communities. All your buyers using the same platform, experiencing the same cohesive branding, no matter who's selling the options, and that it also allows purchasing to manage the orders with one process, which means no more missed options at the job site, no out-of-date reports, because it's all real-time information. So.
Awesome. I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
When you're working with who are you primarily working with? Because I don't know who all of the decision makers are in the room in different departments, but who do you find primarily is championing, saying, we need a design center, and who do you think is the best fit to be the leader? Now, I still am all for a task team, but who do you think is the best person to be leading that charge?
It tends to be somebody in purchasing.
Wrong.
but it does.
I kinda knew that was gonna
I mean, it
happen.
does.
Everybody
Well,
awake
it
now?
Bad idea.
Okay. Well, it does. It tends to be that purchasing. Obviously, I think the key is actually having everybody from all the different departments that are involved in it and having an input to say this is what we need.
Yeah.
It's not. It shouldn't be purchasing heavy. It shouldn't be design heavy. There's got to be something in the middle for everybody, and there is, and then that's called communication.
It's MarTech, right? It's marketing, it's IT, and marketing also saying, how are we doing this, right?
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
So it really is a team effort.
It is a team effort.
And then, so then the point person, of course, is, well, in my example would be, that person is the one that's going to move forward with helping get the procedures and processes in place and that type of thing. if it's purchasing or if it's in design center, it doesn't matter. It just everybody needs to be talking together and agreeing.
Gotcha. And
Online design is not a purchasing tool. It's a sales and marketing tool. The object of online design is to sell more options and make more money, not to cut costs and get rebates.
Well said.
Which I agree, which I totally
Okay.
agree. But it tends to,
There's
from our
always-
experience, it tends to come from that area.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It shouldn't just be top heavy in purchasing. It has to be everybody.
Yeah.
It probably has to be the person who is most responsible and cares the most about the customer experience, right? And sometimes that could be purchasing, right? Depending on the roles, it does shift by the company, but it definitely has to be someone very senior, very executive. If the CEO says it's going to get done, that really helps, right? The champion. But it's who's responsible for that revenue and that customer experience. So, and it has to be all of them nodding up and down at the same time.
Yeah, and then some we're going to find lots of different styles of ROI, right?
Yeah.
To really agree to both points of view.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
All right, so want to definitely follow up with Ryan here. And I know he's going to take us through, you have kind of the actual physical playground of how this actually works. So I know we've got a lot of animations and videos here to see what ECI is doing on the product development front, and to really making this experience happen for our customers today in home building.
Yeah, definitely. So this is basically just a little quick recap of the whole suite that InSearch created over the last 13 years. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about, don't hate me, Dennis, but I'm going to talk a little bit about purchasing and the
You're on
integration.
the wrong panel. You got to go find that panel. They're out there somewhere.
John Galante is going to go, what the heck happened in that
This is the
room?
last session, so I was
Where
like,
did I lose control?
let's see what happens.
And really, what I'm going to talk about, like with, I'll show just this slide here with the full ecosystem that we're building with ECI. So we do have, like the ERP is integrated. So we're not only pulling the information, we're actually pushing it back to the addendums, to the POs, to the work orders, and then actually even with our Bolt tool, it's actually going all out into the field as well too. So for scheduling with the subs and things like that as well. So that's really what I wanted to talk about with a specific client today. So this client, well, there we go. This is just a little of a recap of what this client has. They have 10 different communities. And then, so their average price is right around the 550 mark. They're doing 200 to 250 homes a year, and their goal is to get to 500 in the next 2 to 3 years. So you can see they have 4 of those 6 softwares currently integrated. InSearch was the latest one, I should say. So when you look at them from a, and I'll just let this slide through so you can actually see how this works. But when you look at it from the integration standpoint, we met with purchasing. Yes, all those options were already in there. The design team was using them. They just didn't have a decent enough tool to actually be able to use it themselves, and then actually obviously have their home buyers use it as well too. So we work directly with the purchasing team just to really dial in those options, because everything that you're seeing on the screen here is coming directly from the ERP. So the locations, obviously the options themselves, all the colors, all the categories, all of that information is being driven by the actual construction management software. We're simply bringing it in, making it look pretty. And interestingly, what we found is there's been a whole lot of other uses for this. They're actually creating the house now in Mark Systems. They create the house first, and then the design agents are actually using the InSearch Design Center platform to spec their homes out. So they liked having all those images. They like having all those images and everything, rather than just the lines and having to click through them. So they're building out their spec. They create that first addendum, and then they can release that spec lot out onto their website, onto MLS or wherever they're wherever they're selling those homes. So the buyer can actually go in there and see, and then on top of that, the buyer can actually still continue to build their wish list on top of that as well. And maybe uniquely to Bill Beasley Homes. This could be something that you guys are doing as well too. They do spec these out. They do pick all the options, but quite often what they do, they sell the home and then they actually go in and remove a handful of like the cabinetry, depending on what level the house is at. They'll remove cabinetry and things like that. So now when they send this out to the buyer post-purchase, that buyer can now go through and actually customize their home prior to coming into that design center. So really 3 different things. Number 1, they're speccing out their lots using the software. Number 2, you can actually use this as a prospect-driven tool. So meaning you can embed this on the front end of your website, let a buyer go in, design their home fully, save their wish lists. These obviously these leads get captured, and in this case, all of those leads automatically get pushed into Lasso or CRM. So now the sales team can nurture from there. And then when you get to post-contract, that email goes out for the buyer to sit at home, argue with their husband at home, not in front of the design agent, figure out all their selections, and then when they do come into the design center, the design agent is actually using this exact same software, and that's where we're actually now making those final selections from there. And then, as I mentioned, all that information gets pushed directly back into, in this case, directly pushed back into Mark systems and goes right into the POs and everything like that. So that previous example showed the build sheet of kind of what gets exported. And we've even found, we're talking about technology and things like that. It's very interesting where our build sheet actually dumps all the images in there. Well, we're finding that these build sheets are actually ending up all the way out into the field because apparently it's a brand new technology that they can have images with those options on the sheets, so they know what's actually getting built out in the house. So it's just interesting, all the little those little things that you think actually are small, but they end up being really great tools in the field as well as even in the selection process.
So Ryan, I have a question on the slide because I have to stop and put my builder hat on. So about 6 years ago, I went through the process of trying to brainstorm how to create a digital design center, and I was trying to lead it in my home building organization. And one of the areas that we got hung up on was how to manage all the SKUs and all the digital components, and even were there enough rendered looks and feels of all the products out there. I'm curious if that's an area that, so fast forward, honestly, this conversation about 5 or 6 years ago, fast forward today, like that is a hang up. Things change, trends change, design change, supply changes, and that's a big piece of how are you getting all of that data current and updated in these systems.
Yeah, and that is a really big part with the connection with the ERP. But then we have a lot of tools that we've built out where we're auto pulling images just directly from the web. So the ERP has the manufacturer model information in there. So now with that information that we have, we can automatically just go grab those images and populate them. So even looking back at implementation, it's much easier to do that as well too.
Yeah. Awesome, thank you.
I've got a question on your cut sheet or print sheet. You have a bunch of images, but then you have a lot without images. So is that by design, or how does that work?
Yeah, in that one you're seeing there's actually a lot of custom options that were created for that lot, so those don't have images associated with them.
So why wouldn't they have images?
So they don't. The ERP doesn't allow you to actually upload images currently, so we don't.
Change your ERP.
So don't definitely. I mean, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. I definitely agree. But yeah, a lot of those were custom images, and then. Again, too, a lot of the onus is on the design agents, and to actually build out these as well too, and they need to own it just as much as really anybody else in the organization. They need to own it and make it look as pretty as they want to make it, so, and keep up to date with all those images.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left, and I'd love to get, if we could get over to Dennis too, because I believe you're just about wrapped up.
Yeah.
I will keep this train on the tracks. So Dennis, I loved your story. Again, I just had the honor of meeting you in the last week, and I love how you have this retail lens that's absolutely inspiring the industry. So I'm going to shut up and let you tell us about how you brought the idea of the Digital Design Center to Fulton Homes, and the why. I think you just saw I talked earlier about the customer of all things.
Yeah.
You know, and so how we service the customer across industries is so important. And you bringing that passion and that lens into how you implemented it with your home builder.
So the most important thing, and when we decided to do a digital design center and a regular design center, was the customer experience. I had bought a Fulton home and it was just awful. And we were building a really great home, but we were the best of the worst. So no one had this thing. No one had a digital design center. I had no idea what we were doing. I didn't have prices. I didn't have anything. Okay. What a bad experience. We're spending $350,000, $400,000 on a house, and we're not doing it right. So I came up with this idea, and I said, we need to have a big design center and a digital design center, and that's when I got in touch with Melissa, and we put together this thing, Adam and Vision, and we built this 13,000 square foot design center 10 miles down the road, and it's worked out pretty good. But the real key is the buyer experience is so great. We tell the buyers pricing, we tell them what everything looks like. Every single one of our options is linked to a picture and a description and things like that. The buyers just have a great experience. It's been such a great profit maker for us, but that was never the point. That was never the idea, okay? When we were talking about purchasing, you know, this is far too important to leave to purchasing. Our purchasing department didn't log into this program until 6 years after we started it, okay? And now they kind of keep up the options and things like that. And they do a great job, you know, but it's really run by the sales and marketing division, and it's a sales and marketing tool. So I just want to kind of give you an idea of where we've been the last, you know, sales-wise. So here's our finalizations in the last 90 days. Our base floor plan is 537, it used to be 400 about last week. Option selections are 82,000, is about 15% of base. So $82,000 is pretty good, right? We're pretty happy with that. Here's our design center options sold from 2007 to 2022. And you can see we kind of hover around 40 or $50 million. How many people do 40 or $50 million out of one digital design place? I don't think so. It's remarkable. Time on digital design center, time on site. So you can see we started this thing, started tracking it back in 2013. They were spending 5 hours. Then we put flooring prices in 2015, and it spiked up to 6.5 hours. And then we went to the new version of Envision, and we spiked to 7 hours. And then the pandemic hit, and it went to 10 hours. So the buyers are spending 10 hours on site before they even go to the design center. Okay.
Crazy.
And then now it's dropped from some 7 to 5 because we're building specs. And so our time on site has gone down considerably. This is one of my favorite slides. This is the top dollars per square foot in stores. So number one is Apple. They do $5,500 a foot. Number two is a convenience store. They do $3,700 a foot. We're number three at $3,400 a foot. And then you got Tiffany and Company at $3,000, Lululemon at the other ones. And so we're doing pretty well. The reason we talk about pricing and we give customers pricing is we want to become very transparent. So if you walked into a Nordstrom store, there's one up here in Scottsdale, and you say, okay, I like this suit here. And I said, so how much is the suit? And they say it's $695. And you go, okay, how much are the shoes, the belt, the tie, the shirt, the pocket square? And they'd say, well, you got to buy the suit first, then we'll tell you the price of the other stuff. But that's exactly how we do it in our houses. And we should be ashamed of ourselves, okay? It's just crazy. This is, we do a browse night every first and third Thursday. We have kind of a party. We have a fun time. We invite people that haven't bought houses. We invite realtors. We invite people that have bought houses, and they mill around our design center, and guess what? They buy houses, and they spend a little more money on options. Plus, we want them to see the options before. Here's the amount of options offered. So we ask our buyers, do you have enough options? You have too many? You have not enough? So you can see 268 people said we have just the right amount of options. 47 said we had too few, and 19 said we had too many.
You're always going to have the three bears. You're always going to have the three bears, you know.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to stay just right. Here's our website features used. We ask all these customers. So the online design center is by far the number one, by far. And then almost number two is option wish list. So we ask, buyers go on a wish list and they ask, they put stuff on there and it just automatically goes into the program and things like that. So,
Well, I'd love to wrap up and say that I think you're saying they both work together, because you had that beautiful example of your events, which
They
I
do.
can also attest they're fabulous.
Yep.
That we're not picking, and I believe I heard you say that too, we're not picking
No.
one or the other, that they can work.
no, but I had somebody asked me a couple months ago, and they said, okay, somebody put a gun to your head, and you said, I had to get rid of one, either the 13,000 square foot design center or the one online. I get rid of the 13,000 foot design center because the one online reaches more people.
Sure.
And people go, well, that's crazy. Well, I'm going to leave both,
Yeah.
I'm
If
not
I
going to get
had
rid of
to.
one,
Yeah,
Yeah.
good answer.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I love hearing those statistics and the analogy with the suit. That hopefully will stick with people for a while. Well, thank you we are at time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this session and got some insights. There's some great tools out there. There's some myths to be busted and the opportunity to really combine the digital and the physical to make a better customer experience. I thank you so much for joining us for these last 5 sessions. Again, I hope you took something away. I know there's a lot of information. Go back to your notes and think about the conversations and think if there's just one thing you could take back to start to make change. That's how we start to innovate this industry together.